few years ago, we lived in a country that at least attempted, some of the time, to help those of us who live below the poverty line in ways to better our quality of life. And in my case, it was to help repair and fix up my old mining house. I received completely brand new windows and doors. I didn't pay a penny. Let me tell you how. Welcome to Misfit Grit. In 2020, I bought this farm, this old chicken and potato farm, for 40 grand cash. I chose it so we wouldn't have to have a mortgage. And we have about 3 acres in Michigan's Upper Peninsula and the Keweenaw Peninsula. And we have done a lot of work to improve it. And as you can imagine, it needs a lot of work. That's the price you pay. That's what you're buying into. We were okay with that. And thankfully, I am now painting and fixing up my kitchen some because I hadn't done anything to it in 5 years and it was really grimy and gross. And a lot of it wasn't even from us, but I do have 5 young children, so we do have to take some credit for some of the mess because when you homeschool, you're home all day. And as a radical homemaker and a farmer, I do a lot of kitchen work. So getting this painted, we're gonna paint this door here green. This has been such a wonderful thing for me to work on this winter. Earlier this summer, we had completely new doors and the front and the windows put on. The entire house had all new windows put on because the old ones, some of them were from the 1920s, maybe even older, and they were rotten. This one was a double paned and it was moldy between the 2 panes. And so it always actually looked like it was snowing when it was actually just mold. And I couldn't clean it because if I was to take off the old window on the outside, the frames would have just disintegrated. They were just rotten. So we had this done. This is a professional carpenter. He's an extremely skilled craftsman who builds log homes, and he did this for us. We do a lot of bartering with him and a lot of work. He's also a client of our mechanic business. So in the winter of 2023, I began searching around for grants that could help people improve their old homes. Now, I live in a copper mining home in the Keweenaw Peninsula, and this was the site of the largest copper mining the world has ever seen. It had the purest copper mine. So these homes went up quick, and they weren't done very well. They were just to house the workers. And my house in particular wasn't taken great care of at all, but it was still standing. And we needed help to keep it standing for our family to live in. So I knew that there were grants available and there were programs that helped people fix up these homes because they're very expensive. And we started searching through the health departments, and that's the Western Upper Peninsula for us, and as well as anything federal or local. And you always start local and then you work up to federal. And thankfully, because of the fact that we had lead paint on site and that there were so many of us in our family, 5 young children, we qualified fairly quickly to move to the front of the list because we had so many people that were in need of a good quality home. And we obtained a grant through the weatherization programs that are available. We obtained one for brand new doors and windows, as well as one to have our home fully insulated completely. It took them 2 weeks, blew in all kinds of insulation. They put it in the attic. They weatherized the crawl space down below. They did a ton of work. A crew of 3 or 4 guys were here for 2 weeks straight, weatherizing this old home. And I tell you what, this is so much more comfortable. We received a wood stove. We put that in about a little over a year ago, but if you were to have seen me 2 years ago in this home in winter, I would have been wearing multiple scarves and my hair would have been tied up in a scarf because I was so cold all the time. We had to keep the furnace at 65 to not burn through all the propane. We've made a lot of improvements and now we can be much warmer and it is much more comfortable in here now. So who you vote for really matters. And it matters for programs such as these. A lot of these programs were funded, many similar programs, by the Inflation Reduction Act that Joe Biden passed. And clearly, with our current fascist regime, they are not interested in helping working people obtain anything except how can they make more money for the wealthy people, right? That's the only thing that they're interested in doing. And so programs like the one that my family benefited from, many of them were cut, gutted, and they don't exist anymore. Many people were removed from public office, and lackeys were put in who would make sure to move projects along that benefit the wealthy and to just sort of sideline all of the working people as much as possible, because that's what is needed in this oligarchic billionaire fascist regime. So when we think about the changes that our country has gone through in a year, but really this has been brewing for a long time, it's programs like this that are on the chopping block. It's my neighbor who needs a furnace repaired, and is he going to be able to get the same assistance, an elderly man? I don't know if the same things exist for people anymore. Luckily, my family was able to get in before all of these cuts were made, but I really invite you to think about who we vote for on all the levels really matters. Because if we want to live in a society that helps protect children from lead paint, or making sure that they're warm, making sure that reasonable accommodations can be made that really don't cost a ton of money, if we want to help people survive and even thrive in a capitalist, extractive, exploitive society, well, then we need to have programs like this that subsidize the poor, because we're not paid enough. It's not even possible that we could earn enough. If you're working class, you don't earn enough to actually survive, especially if you have some children or maybe some other extenuating circumstances. You cannot earn enough to completely pay for everything on your own that people could a number of generations ago. And I often hear people of older generations not quite understanding this, that this is the reality that we now live in, is that it's not the 80s and 90s anymore. Our quality of life, and for myself, I'm a millennial, I don't ever expect to be able to obtain the type of wealth that my parents, the baby boomers generation, it just kind of poured into their laps. For those of us who have grown up the last few decades and now we're having our own families, it looks very different. And as a radical homemaker, I don't produce a whole lot of income, but I save a lot. Now, that is deemed unworthy by our society, and I don't really care what society says about my worth. I know that I have value, but we want to make sure that we're resisting all that toxic narrative that tells people who happen to be experiencing poverty that they're not good enough, that it's their problem, that they need to figure it out on their own. And if you're of an older generation, I ask that you think about what people are really experiencing now, and that the wealth has not been distributed in the same way that it was. And it's very difficult for people to make a go of it now, especially a family. And who you vote for really matters. So if you yourself are in need of home repair or large appliances replaced, start looking at the local level, your local health department, and then exhaust all of those resources and then move up to your state level. Once you've done that, then look for federal. That's the requirements. You might qualify for something. And if you are so fortunate that you don't have to look for these programs to improve your home or whatever, you're able to provide all the financial resources that you and your family needs, I'm very pleased for you. But please remember that many of us, there's really no chance that we'll be able to anytime soon, especially with this siphoning off of resources and the structuring of our society and the exploitation and abuse that we see all the time. So please remember, who you vote for matters. The policies that they put in place matter, because I don't know if other people get brand new windows and doors and they get to, spruce up their kitchen and their home and feeling better and just having a better quality of life. I don't know what's in the cards for other people. Luckily, I got in before this current fascist takeover, but we don't know what will happen, if there will even be another election. So take care, everyone, and please support those programs that your government should be funding. Look at that. It took 3 coats. But now I need to make curtains.